Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farms, and this is a project that I've been excited for a while now. I'm building a 3-point carryall. There are a ton of videos already on YouTube about building a 3-point carryall. I watched every one of them I could find, which is quite a few, like I said, and I looked at everything those people did. I said, what part of that works for me and what part doesn't, and I'm adapting my own version. I think it'll have some things that are unique that no one else has done, but I'm also, you know, it's a basic design. It's a wooden box built onto this frame. So I did a video just the other day on this carryall. I've got the same carryall here that pretty much everybody else uses. It's a county line carryall. They've got them at Tractor Supply. A lot of tractor stores that sell this kind of attachments are going to have these. Every one of these they sell at Tractor Supply is not the same. Tractor Supply buys from whoever has them at the time, and different regions of the country get them from different manufacturers. So mine, when I got it, was not quick hitch compatible. I could have just put it on the tractor the way it was without the quick hitch and went. But quick hitch is a big deal to me. And so I've got the quick hitch on the front of the tractor to demonstrate that I've got it set up now where it is quick hitch attachable. So I had to cut out this right here. I've got a friend who's got a machine shop basically in his garage, and he did the actual work. But we cut this out right here, and we reinforced across the top, and that allowed the main hook to come up in here. That was the biggest problem with compatibility, is my flanges here barely stick down, and the hole for the top pin is only 3/4 of an inch gap right here. And the quick hitch is 1.25 inches, so it wouldn't fit. So we cut that out, reinforced. We added some hooks right here for chain. Then we put some bar stock down the whole front on both sides to shim it out so that these hooks on the quick attach would go in more easily, because it was very tight as far as if they would fit or not. Then we welded on angle iron to the front and some reinforcing bar, and I put a receiver on the front. I'm also going to bolt that receiver in to the wood to give it even more strength, and I think it'll be pretty sturdy. Anyway, that's what I did to the carryall before this video. Now we're going to go ahead and build the box on it. I've seen some people who put the layer here first, and some people who put this layer first. As far as I can tell, it doesn't really matter for using 2x12s. I also saw a lot of different choices for the thickness or the width of the 2x that people use. Some people use 2x6s. Some used a pattern of 4-inch, 6-inch, 4-inch, 10-inch. I wanted simplicity, and Hometown Acres just used 3 2x12s up the back, 3 2x12s across the bottom, and that worked fine. So I said, why make it more complicated than it has to be? And using the wider boards makes it easier to make sure your holes are going to line up. So that's what I went with. So for this part of the frame, the only wood I needed was 3 10-foot 2x12s. They're cut in half, so that gives me 6, 3 this way and 3 this way. 6 2x12 by 5. My carryall will be 5 foot. And that's almost exactly the width of the tractor, so it's not going to be too much of an issue. If the tractor tires will fit, then so will this. So after I said it doesn't matter if you do this up and down or the base first, I'm noticing that my receiver is sticking out about 1 inch, 1.5 inches past the end of the wood planks, and I don't want that. So that's the determining factor for me. I'm going to do the standing upright. I'm going to do the back wall first. Alright, so these are 60 inches. I'll go ahead and measure and make sure. Just a hair over 60. Okay, so on the top part, So this is 26 and a half. The wood is 60. So that would be 33 and a half inches. See if that math is right. 33 and a half plus 26 and a half should be 60. So we'll take that 33 and a half, cut that in half, and you would get 16 and 3/4. So we need 16 and 3/4 sticking through on each side, which I basically eyeballed almost exactly. 16 and 3/4. Now, just in case I can't do math in my head, I'll go around and measure the other side. Ideally, I would have used some shorter clamps, but this is just what happens to be here. It'll work fine. Alright, so I always have a 1/2-inch drill bit over here on the workbench for the product we build. So I've got those clamped down. I just need to drill 4 holes through this 2x4. These are 1/2-inch by 2.5-inch carriage bolts. They're galvanized so they hold up to the weather and don't rust. Also, galvanized washers and nuts. So I've had my impact out this weekend. I was doing the project I released recently on wheel spacers. I started to grab that impact and then I thought, that doesn't really make sense. This is a carriage bolt into wood. We're not trying to torque it that hard. So I've got different lengths of bolts, and these are barely going in. And I've realized it's because I added that spacer, so I'm glad I got the longer bolts. These, instead of 2.5, I'll probably need to use the 3-inch. So if you didn't put the shim along the front, you'll be fine with 2.5-inch bolts, which is what most people I've seen use. If you did, space it out like I did. You will need longer bolts. So I started to use the 2.5-inch bolts because everyone else did. Then whenever I stuck them through, I realized they weren't going to be long enough because I had spaced mine out. I needed a 3-inch bolt. Well, I actually bought a bunch of 4-inch bolts. Hopefully my deep well will reach that. All right. So I just had an incident with not having the right bolts and having to stop a project and bring the tractor in again. And so this time I got a couple sizes. Alright, so we've got the first board on. These next two will be an exact repeat of that, so we'll skip ahead and I won't bore you with watching every bolt get put in. All right, so I think I'm gonna set it down and do the exact same thing on the other ones. I still think it's gonna be handy to do most of the build picked up like this, but for these bolts right here, I wouldn't be able to put them in with the driver or get the drill in from the back. So I'm gonna set this down, put those two on just like I did this one, and be right back. So I thought these were gonna be just a repeat of the first one, but they're not, because this third hole up that goes into the second board is lined up perfectly with your quick hitch pins, which means you have to take this off, then put in a shorter bolt or a bolt you're going to cut off. A 3-inch bolt would do just fine. So you got to pull this out, put a 3-inch bolt in right here, then put this back. Bad design really to have those two holes line up with each other. So I've seen people measure out the placement for all these holes, then drill the boards and then put them on. That to me just seems like how I would get the holes drilled wrong. You really can't mess it up if you clamp the boards onto the frame and drill the holes. I think lifting it with the tractor like this is one easy way to work on it. I've only had this 3-point adapter for the front end for a week, but I just keep finding ways to use it, and this is a handy option right here. I think what I was saying about the 3-point adapter is going to be the same with the carryall. I have some ideas for how I want to set this up to carry a variety of tools, and that's just what I have in mind before building it. I think the number of uses is just going to continue to pop up for what you can do with this. So, the next two boards here should be the same as the last one, other than we'll also be bolting to the receiver. But I'll probably skip ahead to that. So a couple of the videos I've watched about this, they mentioned how inexpensive this was. Because the frame's only $140, $150, $160, depending on, you know, what the sale is or where you live, but then they say, well, and I only spent $100 and some on lumber. Well, that wasn't the case for me. I think everyone knows that right now it's spring 2021 and lumber prices are through the roof. These 2x12s are $46 a piece at my local Lowe's store. So just on lumber and bolts and nuts and the hardware I bought, which I might have bought a little extra of a couple things, I spent close to $400 on the rest of this build. And then I paid someone to do the fabrication. I bought some metal. I'm going to have about $800 in this. Hopefully, in the future, lumber prices go back down, and there probably are cheaper ways to do some things, but that's just what it cost me. Now, I wasn't crazy about the fact that this layout only puts one bolt in the top board, but then I realized that if you were doing like 2x6s, none of them would have more than one. But on the bottom, that has helped because this bracket I added is going to be bolted on, so it'll have more supporting this board from getting ripped off. So if you're following along and making a materials list, you've got 5, 10, 15, 20. I've got 24 half-inch galvanized carriage bolts. Half of those could be 2.5 inches long. If you space out your frame like I did, these need to be at least 3 inches long. And then you'll need that same number of either lock nuts or lock washers with regular nuts. Because I wanted everything galvanized, I went with the lock washers and a regular nut. So if you stopped here, you haven't spent as much money. It's a simple build. Then I've seen people do something simple like run a 2x4 or a 2x6 corner to corner just to keep bigger stuff from falling off the sides. Then you've got your slant sides, you've got your square sides that hinge. There's a lot of different options, and what I would do is spend a few days thinking, what am I going to do with this? On the hinged version, a lot of people say, well, I can carry long material back here. I can't see what material I'd want to haul that's long on this. I've got 2 sets of pallet forks. I've got a grapple. I'm not going to put lumber back here. Like if I have a stack of 2x12s, I'm going to carry them with the forks. So I don't think I need the hinging sides. That makes it more complicated, more money on hardware. That's DIY My Way is the one who I've seen that really made it famous, having that hinge on the side. And it's a great design. He's very thorough in telling you how he built it. It's just not what I want. And then a lot of them, like I said, will just angle across here. I don't think I want the angled design either, because I'd like to be able to stack this pretty high and, you know, get as much strength as I can on the side. Also, I'm going to incorporate a tailgate and a workbench. DIY My Way, on his, has removable tailgates that can be set on the top to make a workbench. And I'm going to do that part. I'm not going to do it at all the way he did it, but I am going to do that, and I couldn't if I angled the sides. So I'm going to make square sides on this one and then add that tailgate. So the first thing I need to do is cut more 2x12s the length of this platform to make my walls. Primarily for cuts like this, I use one of my DeWalt chop saws, miter saws. But I don't think I want to drag this back there. Those treated 2x12s are pretty heavy. Looks like we need to be 35.5. And I'll just cut that with the circular saw. So I spent the last week mulling over how I wanted to build this. And the part I just mentioned about not wanting the angled sides, wanting a square side that didn't hinge, I decided that early, that that's what I wanted. The hard part was deciding how to build it. Because any way I'm picturing in my mind to build a straight wall up there, this corner doesn't have any support. So I've been toying with a few different ways to do it. I'm going to run them straight out this way and then tie them all together in a couple of different ways, and hopefully we end up with a strong product at the end. So probably about halfway through, it's going to seem like, why does he have those put on that way? It's just going to flop around and, you know, over time break off. And I think I have something figured out that'll prevent that, but you can tell me what you think of it when it's done. That's one point. People worry if they tell you something in the comments that maybe you could have done better, that you're going to be bothered by it or take it personally. If you tell me I did something wrong, there's a good chance that you have a valid point, and I'd like to know it. I'm trying to learn. So if you have any suggestions on how I can make this better or revise it when it's done, just let me know. Here's an example. I'm using an interior wood screw here. These aren't deck screws. They are a construction screw, so they're meant to hold this heavier items, but they're not meant to be used outdoors. I think it'll be fine. I've got this huge bucket of them and I'm going to use them. If I'm wrong and I have to redo this in a couple years, then I guess I should have paid more attention to my materials. So I think it's important to understand what you're doing and what you're using. Try to use the right tool for the job. But I also think sometimes people stress about small things too much. It's like this, for what it is, I think these screws are going to work fine. I didn't use a torque wrench when I was putting my wheel weights on, or, you know, you do the best you can, and I find I get a lot more done if I'm not stressing over every detail. Now, if I was a professional contractor and I'm building a deck for a customer, yeah, I better make sure those are meant to be exterior screws. So that bottom layer's definitely got strength. So I'll tie this board to this one and the same going up, and then I'll use some bracing across it the other direction. Now, this end may not be straight from my last cut, so I'm going to cut the other piece from this end. So the way I'm building the sides here, for the main material on the sides, you're looking at 1, 2, 3 more 2x12s that are 10 foot long. So in this shop we do mass production of pocket holes. Everything we build in here is built with pocket hole screws. So it was convenient for me, until I reinforce this later, to tie these two pieces together this direction by putting pocket holes in this. Probably not necessary if you're building it. You know, we have a homemade pocket hole machine there that, you know, mass produces and is very fast. You should check that video out on the channel. But if you don't have that, you can either pick up a pocket hole drill jig. They've got the individual one that clamps on for like 20 bucks. Or you really probably could just skip this step of doing the pocket holes. Looks like these screws need to be in this end. So with nothing to reinforce it, you know, that's not going to work. That's what you get. Like I said, I'm gonna tie these together a couple different ways. Another option right there, you could just toenail those with a regular screw. Only thing with that is you'd run a little bit of risk of splitting out the wood. That will move the whole thing, shaking that, so we're starting to get a little strength on it. So what you've seen so far, I'm going to repeat the exact same thing and put the other 4 boards on, then I'll be back with you. All right, for the second time, I could say this could be a good stopping point. You know, it's structurally sound. I think it needs a little more support. I also think the removable tailgate's a good option. So we'll get started on that real quick. This first board is going to be dual purpose. One is to tie these 3 boards together. 2 is to hold in the tailgate. 33 inches should be the same. Alright, I'm going to put 2 screws into this board for each of these 3. So I'm going to do 6 screws. Alright, now we've added more strength. I don't think you're going to break that anytime soon. Obviously, you know, you ran it into something, or you can break anything, but it's strong for what it is. So the piece we have left off that 2 before is 30.5. So we'll go 15.25. I'm going to cut this in half. Now we're going to cut our tailgate piece. Should be the same 60 inches that these bottom boards were, but might as well just measure again in case they were a little off. Alright, as a matter of fact, when I go to use it, 60 inches is going to be too tight of a fit for what I'm looking for. And you've got 1.5 inches on either side, so you could cut 1.5 inches off before it fell out. So I'll probably cut 1/2 inch off. Yeah, about 1/2 inch ought to do it. Alright, so this is our tailgate. Put these other 2 boards that we cut a minute ago up next to that, leaving a little bit of a gap so that it's not too tight. Nothing here needs to be tight. You don't want to be fighting to get this in and out. Alright, now we use these chest handles for our products all the time because they're collapsible. Makes it convenient. They're not sticking out in the way of anything. Just put a couple handles on here for pulling that in and out. It's better if you use the right bit. I'm not even going to measure these, just kind of ballpark it. Alright, so I've built the basic structure. The only thing left is hanging tools on it. And I've got a bunch of ideas for different ways to hang tools on. Some of it is things I've seen on other videos, and some of it are ideas I haven't seen anywhere else. But I'm going to save that for another video. The only other thing I want to do here is build a spot to set this and make this a workbench on top. Alright, so there's your basic build. I still have quite a few things I want to do to this. There are some tool holders and some different add-ons that I've seen on other videos that I want to do. I also have some unique ideas of my own that includes using this tailgate as a workbench. So I'm going to build a spot that it can set on top so that if you're out using your chainsaw and you want to sharpen it, you've got a place to set it. So I didn't intend for this to be a 3-part series, But when I bought the carryall and brought it in here to start this, and it wouldn't fit a quick hitch, that just added a whole nother layer. And I don't want to cram the tool storage part in a small timestamp on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and call this video complete. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. In a minute you'll see links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.